Yo. This is going to be a little bit of a test stream on YouTube. I have not streamed on YouTube in a very long time, like almost forever. So there's two things I'm going to do today in today's stream. This is going to be quick streams, because I think I'm going to use the streams as kind of a opportunity to make video guides, probably. So I think, which is what, when I first started streaming, that's what I did. I just streamed to do like short streams on how something worked in Neverwinter back in the day. So I think that's what I'll do here for YouTube, at least for a while. We've got Satisfactory, we've got Tektronica coming up end of July. So I want to have something established so I can start making guides and stuff like that. For these Build It games, which I really like. We're waiting for more stuff for No Man's Sky in the future, and new content for No Man's Sky. We'll see what that's about in the future. I'm just gonna try to use YouTube to I just have a need to live stream sometimes, and I could make guides at the same time, something like that. So we'll give it a try and see how it goes. Twitch, I haven't shut down Twitch, it's still there, but I've just lost interest in Twitch, for now at least. I don't see like big reasons to stream on Twitch right now. The platform is littered with just smut. It used to be like just a place for gaming, and Twitch decided to just open up the spigots and let you, like the strippers are getting all the viewers. There's most of the gaming. The gaming, it's very difficult to break through as a streamer because there's so many people that stream there, and so I don't see any reason to really stream at Twitch right now. I think I would rather just maybe going forward work on YouTube, at least for the time being, and then see what happens in the future. So this is kind of a test stream on YouTube, but I also wanted to today. I'm going to show you what I'm doing for aluminum, at least on a smaller scale, and for how I'm making a lot of plastic. And of course, it all comes down to, what is the key to Satisfactory? What is one of the keys? Alternate recipes is what it comes down to. So let's just kind of come over here. I'm going to drink some tea and just come over here and take a look at where things are starting and where they're leading into for aluminum sheets. I've got the sheets coming out and the plastic coming out also this is what they call the West Coast or the Gold Coast, going to a train station. So I'll be working pretty hard on the train stations, and I'll be funneling a lot of things to the train stations from these locations and then moving stuff around as needed. Like I said, I'll be using YouTube to make guides. I'm going to try to do it this way, live stream and make guides at the same time, kind of thing. And that'll allow me to stream more short streams, and then long streams on YouTube. It just is dependent on what happens in the future. Okay, it's all dependent on the future. Okay, so one of the keys, the big keys to Satisfactory, is alternate recipes. This particular save, I made sure to unlock a lot of alternate recipes before really starting to do major building, and get the hover pack too, which is buried deep into Tech Tree 7. So I did a lot of crap, a lot of running around to get stuff unlocked before actually starting to do building and stuff like that. This save is going to be heavy on trains, because I really haven't done a lot with trains before. I've done a lot with drones, but I've got drones unlocked too. In fact, I'm using one right now to deliver bauxite over to here. Okay. Okay, let's look at the final result first. Final result is going to be aluminum sheets and aluminum casings. Here's the machines that are making the sheets. Here's the machine that are making the casings. So just running the casings out here to some storage containers, sheets into storage containers, aluminum sheets out. And these are running all the way back to the train station to be delivered. Actually, these particular ones right now are being delivered to across in the green grassy biome to make batteries. Batteries for anything, vehicles and for drones. Speaking of batteries, here's batteries right here. Batteries are being delivered back here into this location. So batteries are coming out here for this drone port here, which is bringing the bauxite in. And for this truck stop here. And I am using a truck stop to bring copper ingots over here because I'm using an alternate recipe to make the sheets and the casings, which I'll show you that at the end here. But to me, you could see the vehicles. You got to record the path. Vehicles, in my opinion, are kind of messy to set up, just because you got to record everything, and it's kind of weird in that regard. If you keep adding new trucks to your path that you created, you can move good quantities, no question about it. But laying down roads and everything have to do, I mean, it is kind of tedious to do vehicles from an aesthetic looking point of view. Vehicles are amazing. If you're going for a realistic look in your builds, I mean, look at this right here. It looks like someone is delivering something from a warehouse to wherever it is you want to go. So you can really give a more realistic look, as opposed to what I would be doing if I wasn't using vehicles here, is I would be using conveyor belts. And conveyor belts are like, they don't require any power, they move a lot of quantity, but they're really, really boring. They're not interesting. Look at the conveyors here. They're not really that interesting. So I'm trying to do less conveyors and more other ways of moving stuff around. But the big movement, of course, is going to be trains. I see no problem using conveyors, moving stuff to the train station, which I have a train station over here that I start working on, to be moved around. Okay, back to the aluminum. Now, aluminum ingots are what is going to be fed in to make the sheets and the casings. Here's all the machines making the ingots. I have a lot of storage for ingots over here, and then down for the production of sheets and casings. Okay, I'm gonna start at the beginning now and then work my way back. So in order to start this process, I'm going to be using a alternate recipe called sloppy alumina. So sloppy alumina takes in bauxite and water. Okay, so again, alternate recipes, alternate recipes, alternate recipes. To me, that's the key to this game. So I've got water extractors in the water, but I am feeding back water that's coming out later in the process. So it's kind of a balancing act there, but I am bringing water back in. So I'm hardly using any water extractors for this. So right now, for this particular thing, I'm just running 2 refineries to make what's called sloppy alumina, bauxite and water. Bauxite's here. The bauxite node over in the Gold Coast here is right up here. It's a nice pure node of bauxite here. And if this was anything else, what I would be doing is I would be using a conveyor to bring down bauxite. But again, trying to go fewer conveyors and more interesting ways of moving stuff around, I used a drone port. So drone port up here, and 2 drones moving stuff back and forth. And it's already more than I need. All of these are full already. The drones are waiting to move stuff. So bauxite coming in. We've got a total of potentially 400 bauxite per minute being used. 400 per minute being used. Okay, so that's on the sloppy alumina. And again, because of the water feedback, sometimes this buffer will fill up, and I'm still dialing down the water so that the buffer doesn't fill up as much. But normally, if I didn't do that, I would just go water extractors, pure water extractors in, to guarantee that there would never be a backup over here. And then the water that's coming out of the next process, I would sink it like with wet concrete or something like that. Okay, so bauxite in, sloppy alumina, alternate recipes to create alumina solution. Okay, so alumina solution into more refineries to make aluminum scrap. Now, aluminum scrap takes in petroleum coke. Again, alternate recipe, electrode aluminum scrap. Petroleum coke, which just comes from oil. So here is a little oil node here. I'm just borrowing a little bit out of it and making heavy oil residue into petroleum coke. So you get large quantities of this and you don't need a lot of it. In order to satisfy the alternate recipe for electrode aluminum scrap, again, I'm going for large quantities on this. So alumina solution, which came in from the previous process, petroleum coke coming over, and we're creating electrode aluminum scrap, and it's creating a large amount of aluminum scrap per refinery. Look at that, 300. But it is creating water out of it. It's taking the water back out. I am feeding that down through the buffer and feeding back into the system. That's coming back into these original refineries here. And whenever I do this, I just like none of these are being used right now because so much water is coming back in. So I just keep dialing this down and dialing it down. It's going to use less power, less water, and until I get it right to where there's never a backup, and that there's enough water coming in here to satisfy this as well. So I always put buffer here just to measure how things are going, coming out of the aluminum scrap one here, and that should help now start dialing down that there. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are creating aluminum scrap from the solution and the petroleum coke as inputs, massive amounts of scrap coming into here, and then we're running those into smelters, just single line smelters. Again, another alternate recipe, pure aluminum ingots. Pure aluminum ingots. This is scrap directly into ingots. No silica needed. Another amazing alternate recipe that is critical for me. You don't need silica now for this. So this is the ones I'm always looking for when I do a new save, the recipes I've showed so far. So pure aluminum ingots from that massive amounts of aluminum scrap that are coming in. So we're creating tons of ingots, and I store a lot of ingots for use and stack them and rack them. And for now, I'm going to be doing one output. I could do other outputs from here as well. One output's coming down and now coming into the factories for making the end products, which are the sheets and the casings, coming along the wall here, down here, and through the distribution, just typical manifold distribution. Through here on one side is the casings, and again, alternate recipes. All CAD casings are going to be coming in with aluminum ingots and copper ingots. Making a ton of copper ingots. Again, those are coming in from the trucks from the nodes over here, from a factory over here. And so copper ingots are coming in here, some storage for it, and it's feeding into the manifold system here. So again, count the alternate recipes, all CAD casings. So here's the casing output for this: ingots, copper ingots, aluminum ingots in, and all CAD casings. For the sheets, another alternate recipe, all CAD aluminum sheets. Again, copper ingots and aluminum ingots, 30 per minute on each. So we're making good quantity. These are all going out right now to the train station. Train is going over to the other side or mid-map to a nice sulfur node where I've got a huge farm for creation of batteries. It's got a battery farm with sulfur, plastic, wire, and sheets. train is bringing that stuff over there and dropping off, coming back over here and picking it up. It's using a lot right now because I've got tons of industrial containers that are stacking the batteries for use later. And that'll be a drone delivery system over there to move batteries around the map where needed for drones and for vehicles, like what I'm doing here with this one. Batteries coming in here from that same location I just talked about, splitting these off, one for vehicles and one for another drone to move the bauxite down here. So that creates the, that's the end product then, creating the sheets to go out. Again, since I'm here, how am I making the wire? How am I making the wire? That's going out to the train station to go to make the batteries. Again, another alternate recipe. Caterium wire. Look at what you're getting here. 15 in on the ingots, 120 out on the constructors. 120 out in the constructors, and it's a 1-to-8. So 15 in, 120 out. So there's another great alternate recipe that I grab it while I get it. Caterium wire, okay? And the caterium ingots, there's a nice pure node right over there where I'm just running them in to make all this wire. Again, this wire goes to the train station. And I could use, I'm gonna kind of separate out like the distribution system at the train station to where one will be for one train going to the sulfur batteries, and then I'll have more wire available in another set to go to another train station if needed to be delivered somewhere else. I'll build out the train system, and then in the future when that's done, I'll do stream and show my blocking and path, which is one of the tough, like for this game, one of the most confusing thing for people in this game are blocks and path signals. And we'll go over that in the future. Keep it simple. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about today is I want to show you recycled plastic. Okay, another alternate recipe. So let's go look real quickly how that works. Now I'm creating fuel over here for the fuel generators to create electricity, but I've also got plenty of leftover fuel to do for other things. I'm going to use that fuel to create what is called recycled plastic. You can also do recycled rubber. But I need more plastic first. Again, that plastic is being run back to the train station, and this initial set is being delivered to the battery production. Also creating plastic with resin output. So these are all these refineries creating heavy oil residue. Again, another alternate recipe to create heavy oil residue from crude oil. Okay, we're going to go heavy oil residue into blenders to make diluted fuel to make power. Okay, there's something called turbo fuel, which is even beyond that. You can do more fuel generators. I don't even need it. You don't need as much power as you think you need in this game, I think. So I'm just going to another alternate recipe, heavy oil residue. It's going to create heavy oil residue, which I'm going to run in blenders to create fuel for power, fuel for recycled plastic, which is what I'm going to show you, and there's an output of polymer resin. Now you could sink that if you want, just to get rid of it so you don't get backups. But I'm go ahead, I'm taking all this resin that comes out, I'm tying it all together, and it's running down into some refineries down there, right down here, and it's being used to make more plastic as needed. And that's going to tie into the same line that's going back to the train station from the recycled plastic. So it's going to add some more plastic to the grid. And again, there's always a possibility in the future, as I turn on more of this production for fuel, that we could potentially get a backup, and that's why I put a sink right here. If this backs up, I've got a smart splitter here for overflow to go to the left. Any overflow will come back in here into the awesome sink so that we never back up over here on this production. Okay, and then let me just show you the blenders real quick that are going to create the fuel. So here's the oil coming in from an oil node right here. Oil up, all split off into the refineries. Into the refinery, alternate recipe out with heavy oil residue. You can tell by the color right there, heavy oil residue coming out. Tying all this together, I did the math already. I know how many refineries I can make, which is 20 based on what I'm producing over here. I know how many blenders I could make output for this entire line eventually. And I've already devoted some blenders for electricity production. Again, like I said, diluted fuel from heavy oil residue. You saw the alternate recipe for heavy oil residue. Here's the alternate recipe for diluted fuel. Right into a blender, heavy oil residue and water. So we got to make sure we got our water extractors going. We're going to create a lot of fuel out of this, a lot of fuel. Okay. So like I said, some of this fuel is already being used to make fuel generators, but I'm devoting some of this fuel, like these two guys right here, are coming up over here and are going to be used for the recycled plastic. In this particular case, I'm taking 300 fuel, and running it up along here to be used for recycled plastic. So this is just all fuel coming up here underneath. So let's go up and take a look at how I'm making a lot of plastic here. We'll look at these recipes for this. This thing here is replicated 3 times. So when I show you this, it's basically it's replicated 3 times, and then I'm tying them all together. Okay. The outputs of the plastic are being tied all together and then going down to the main conveyor belt to the airport, tied in with the residual, within the resin residual plastic. I'll show you right here before we go into the alternate recipes. So you can see the conveyor going out. So there's the conveyor right there, already backed up nicely to the sulfur factory over on the other side of the map. And so you can see here, this is going down here, plastic tying into the main line going out. So let's go back over here and take a look at one sequence of recycled plastic, okay? And the thing is, I titled my stream like aluminum sheets, but I'm going over much more than that, okay? These are, so I mean, you know, what are you going to do? I'll add it into the description. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, again, here is an alternate recipe called recycled rubber, okay? So what we do here is we take plastic and we make rubber out of it. So if you're going to do this, you're going to, if you want to make a lot of plastic, you're still going to need both recipes. You're going to need the alternate for recycled rubber. You're going to need the alternate for recycled plastic, okay? So you're going to need both of them for these to work in tandem because they feed each other. So to make from fuel recycled plastic, which is ultimately what we want to make, we're going to make rubber first and use that as fuel, use as an input to make the plastic. So let's look at this first one here. Recycled rubber, input is plastic and fuel. We're going to make rubber out of it, okay? So we're taking 30 in on the plastic, 30 in on the fuel. That's why I'm doing 3 of these. We're going to need a total of 90 each. Each refinery takes in 30 fuel. So let's just focus in on this. So first one in, the goal here is to make plastic. That is the goal. First refinery is recycled rubber. Plastic in, fuel in, rubber out at 60. Okay? Rubber out at 60. What we're going to do before we turn this on, though, we're going to seed this. I'm going to take some plastic and throw it in here first. After that, once this is up and running, we never have to do that again. Okay? So we're going to seed this with some plastic, just drag and drop it in. Okay? Fuel is all tied in nicely. We're going to create rubber at 60 per minute. And what are we going to do with that rubber? We're going to split it. We're going to take that rubber and we're going to split it into 2 more refineries. Okay? 30 into here and 30 into here. Okay, so we went from 1 refinery with an alternate recipe called recycled rubber, putting 60 out. We're going to create 2 refineries. We're going to use the alternate recipe called recycled plastic on each of them. Okay, recycle plastic, recycle plastic. Those are going to take in fuel at 30 each, so now we've got a total of 90 fuel for this one line. 90 fuel. Okay, we're going to take in 30 rubber on each. That's why we put a splitter here. Okay, this puts 60 out on the rubber. We're going to split it in half. 30 into here, 30 into here on the rubber. Okay, now what's coming out of here? On each of these refineries, we're getting 60 plastic on each. We're using now this recipe called recycled plastic. So we're now where we want to be, because the goal here was to make plastic. So we're now where we want to be. So we're making 60 and 60. We took 30 and 30 on the rubber end. We're recycling it into plastic, and we're making 60 and 60. That's a total of 120. A total of 120 plastic. But what are we doing with that? What are we doing with the plastic coming out? 60 out on this one, 60 out on this one. Okay, the first 60 is going right into our main line out. Okay, 60 out right here. What are we doing with the other 60? We're splitting it. We're splitting it in half. 30 is coming out over here, and 30 is coming back. Remember I talked about seeding? 30 is coming back into here. So we're getting a total of 120 plastic coming out, but we're going to borrow 30 of it to feed back into here for the plastic. So now it's a self-fulfilling system. We're getting a total of 60 and 30 out on our end product. That's 90. So we're going to get we're borrowing 30 to feed back in on the feedback loop. But right here, if you add it up, we're getting 60 and 30 coming out. So this one process of 3 refineries are getting us 90 plastic per minute. 90 fuel is coming in as well. Okay, and how do we get that fuel? We had an alternate recipe for heavy oil residue. Then we ran it into blenders with water and made fuel, diluted fuel, alternate recipe, diluted fuel in the blender, and then took that out and used that in here. Okay, and then we just replicate this 3 times. So we're getting 90 by 90 by 90. So that's what, 270 per minute coming out, going into the conveyor line. Conveyor line can handle up to 780, and we're running that back to the airport. And we're also adding in the additional whatever's coming out because of the resin that's coming over here. The amount of resin that's coming will increase in the future as I add more fuel generators, and the refineries that are making the heavy oil residue, I've only got like 12 of them making it. When I completely fill this out, there'll be a lot more resin coming back. Just one more side note, talking about alternate recipes. What am I doing with the resin also over here that's coming out of this process? Making fabric. Another alternate recipe called polyester fabric. Now in update 6, this recipe I believe is unlocked in the MAM. Well, actually, I think it may have been unlocked in the MAM before. I'm not sure, but this is unlocked in the MAM. And some people might be wondering, like, why would I want to do this? It's the automated creation of fabric. So you don't have to do this manually again in the future. You don't have to run around grabbing micellia. So here's another alternate recipe that's critical for me, is the polyester fabric. Okay, so because of all this, I'm going to change the description, I guess, and just mention all the alternate recipes that's in today's video. I didn't know I was going to go over all of that. But the big ones today are aluminum sheets, casings, those alternate recipes, and then I also came over here and showed you the fuel, oil into heavy oil residue into blenders to make fuel, fuel for generators over here, fuel over here for recycled plastic, and then if you want to make recycled rubber, you just reverse this whole process. These 3 refineries, you just reverse it. Instead of the first one being recycled rubber, it'll be recycled plastic on the first one. Then the other 2 will be recycled rubber. You just reverse what you did here. If you want to make recycled rubber in the future, which I will be doing at some point in the future, rubber will come into play later on. So I think that's like I said, guys, this is I think in the future I want to do short streams. Like I said, I want to use YouTube to just make guides, and what I want to try to do is I want to try to live stream the creation of guides. That's what I want to try to do. So it's show and tell. It's show and tell live. That way because sometimes I get an itch to do some live streams. And by me doing it here on YouTube, this automatically becomes a VOD on YouTube. I just got to change the thumbnail, I guess. Let's see how it goes. I don't know if do I really need to edit this stuff? I guess if I really needed to, I could download it, edit it. But why not kill two birds with one stone? I get to do some live streams, and then we got a VOD for this stuff right here. Remember, we got Tectonica coming up in the future. That's another Build It game. It's going alpha late July. So I'll be involved in that for sure. I want to get in. I like getting in on the ground floor of a game. Satisfactory's been out since 2018 or 19. 18, 19? There's a million videos for this game. And so I want to get in. I want to be like really for Tectonica coming up. I hope, the alpha is only going to be a small part of what we're getting. The Tectonica is going to be a much bigger game. You know how alphas are. It's more for stability and stuff like that. They'll give us enough to do. But Tectonica is going to be something we're definitely going to keep an eye on going forward. No Man's Sky also, because there's a lot of Build It in that game available. Resource extraction, but the game is broken on so many levels. And we'll just keep an eye on No Man's Sky to see where it ends up in terms of factory building and stuff like that, which is my main interest in that game. So we'll keep an eye on that for new stuff coming out in the future. So, okay, so that's it for today's stream. And hopefully, if anyone's watching, there's a guides here for multiple things. The key to Satisfactory is alternate recipes. Some of them are unlocked in the MAM. Most of them are hard drives. I got another video on hard drives. It's from a couple years ago or whatever. But hard drives, just go and get it done. Go and get it done. And now with update 6. Update 6. If you want to play this game, do it in experimental. Don't play this game on the live server. Do it in experimental. Why? First of all, a lot of the monsters are broken. They're not even there. They're not behaving correctly. They guard a lot of the hard drives you're going to need for the alternate recipes. The other thing is, Update 6, which is on experimental, has much better ammunition types for your weapons. For me, I'm just using the explosive rebar. It's already doing really good. So if you're new to this game and you think about buying it and you're going to start playing, I would play right on experimental, which is like the PTR. It's going to be easier to go get your hard drives for your alternate recipes. I'm not touching this game again on early access server until this game gets moved over to there. So I would play on experimental. It's much easier to get your hard drives, better ammo types for your weapons, and besides, you want to be playing on the latest version of the game anyway, which is here in experimental. Even though it's not as stable, this is the place I would be. Okay? All right, thanks, guys. That'll end it for today. I appreciate anyone watching the VOD here today. If you like this, remember, this game, No Man's Sky, Tectonica coming up in the future. If you are looking for all that kind of stuff, please subscribe here on YouTube. I'm trying to build out this frickin' YouTube channel. It's so dead over here, but I'm going to try. Okay, guys, I'm going to try. Thank you, guys. Hope to see you again in the future. Have a